Okay, in this video it's going to be the dismantling of the engine that came out of the 624 payloader. There's some components that we're going to keep, some we're going to sell. Whatever, we've used the exhaust manifold on the 7200R. This is the following day here. I had the video all done. I had called 5-Star the other day to see if they had the connecting rod that ended up coming through the side of the block. And they couldn't put their hands on it right away. However, I called there today. I had a couple of questions. Nate ended up changing the oil after the first 100 hours. And it took a different oil filter. So I had asked them if they had a filter. And I had asked the service manager, I said, hey, by chance, do you have that connecting rod? And he said, you know, my mechanic does have that. So I said, I'd like to get a hold of that. So in the later part of the video, I didn't have that. You know, what I had videoed here previously, I didn't have that connecting rod. So we do have the connecting rod that goes to the piston number 5. And you can see that that's all kind of bent and twisted and whatever from when it came out through the side of the block. So find out towards the end of the video what plans we have to do with these pistons, and we're going to include the connecting rods. We'll include the end caps and the bearings as well. Jared does have the transmission in the W9. He finished that up today. We had some other projects that I was working on today. I didn't video anything, but we've got some other things that we need to do to this truck. When it had a front end alignment done here last week, the front end alignment shop said that the kingpins are getting to the point where you should be thinking about changing them sooner rather than later. So we're going to get into doing kingpins on this as well, just because it's still in the frickin' shop. So we're going to get on that here tomorrow. So enjoy the rest of the video. Remember to leave me a thumbs up if you like this video. Drop me a comment down below. We'll catch you at the end, folks. Thanks again for watching. Well, we've got the engine that came out of the 624 payloader. We're just going to kind of start tearing it all apart. It's no good. The block's got a hole in it. And it's got a connecting rod that's broke. We're going to see if the crank is any good. Kerr's going to pull the oil pan off. We use the exhaust manifold on the 7200. The cooler, EGR cooler, had to come off so that that exhaust manifold could come off in there. The EGR cooler is good. We've got the turbo sitting on the bench there. Actually, this is the new manifold to the 7200. I got to get that returned. But he's getting ready to pull this oil pan off now. He's only got a couple of bolts left to take out of it. Then we're going to view from the bottom side what everything looks like. And then we're going to move in and getting the bell housing off in there. Then we're going to start taking the head off, look down inside the engine, and just kind of take it apart as we go here to just kind of look at things and try to figure out what happened first, whether the piston seized up or if the rod just broke. So the bearing could have went on the crank. The rod could have seized up on the crank. We really don't know, but at any rate, it had 16,457 hours on it. So we should have done a set of rod and mains on it back at 10,000 hours, and it'd still be running today. But well, he's going to get tearing apart on it. All right, Kerr's fast at work here getting things tore off of this engine. He's got the oil pan. He took that off first. Then he took the bell housing off. Now he's working on getting the different components off of it so that he can get the head off in there. There's the EGR valve and stuff like that. The fuel rail, he's got that off. Got the bracket that sits down underneath the EGR cooler itself. But he's getting it stripped down. Injection pump, we could take that off. There might be some value to that. There's just miscellaneous components here and there that might be worth something to somebody. We'll just have to see. We're going to put these parts on eBay and see how they do, like this fuel pump assembly. I'm going to keep that because I can use that, but these other components like the head and whatnot. I won't have a use for that, but we'll have to see how it goes here. Well, this engine's getting smaller. We've got more and more yellow stuff on the floor here as Kerr continues to strip this old girl down. And I just stepped in on him here a second ago. I think he's ready to pull the valve cover now, are you not?
Yeah, I'm just taking that one.
Okay. So, we're getting there, or he's getting there. I'm just, yeah, I'm just running the camera. All right, now we've gotten to the final step. Everything has been completely taken apart on the engine, and we kind of did little steps as we went. Now we're going to step into a time lapse, and you can see the engine taken apart from beginning to end, and then we'll go into a little brief discussion of what we're going to do with this engine now that we have it all apart. So we'll join you after the time lapse here. Well, all right. What I've done is I've taken and I've scattered every piece of this engine around on the floor here, and we'll walk around and we'll kind of show you various things about it. We haven't really learned much more about kind of what led to the destruction of this engine other than just wear and tear. But we're going to walk through the various parts of this engine. It's going to take me longer to explain each and every part than it was to have watched Kerr take this engine apart. But we ended up using the exhaust manifold from this engine on the 7200R. The block is no good. It's got a hole in the side of it, and the pistons are junk, along with the crank. The crank is all spun about right here. That cannot be machined down. It's gone. beyond the point of being able to machine that part down. Now, along with everything else that you see here is good. We've got a bucket of bolts and various fasteners and whatnot like that. But the cam is good. The head is good. The head, I ended up bolting a couple of pieces of 2x4 to the bottom of it because there's these little pencil type injectors on there and I didn't want to damage them. I've got the rocker box opened up. I'll end up putting the valve cover on there, but I think I'm gonna, I got to get some pictures of this stuff. I'm gonna put some of it on eBay. We'll just kind of walk around and talk about the various parts here. You got the oil pan there. There's the front gizmo that goes on the crank. I don't know if that'd be considered the harmonic balancer or not. I don't know if there's a dampener that bolts to the front of that, but that might be what that is. Here is the bell housing here. This goes on the back of the engine, and that gives the engine the support that it needs to hook onto the hydraulic pumps and the transmission or whatever. We got the front cover, head gasket. We got the various gears that go on, all the timing gears. I think one of them went on the cam. One must have went on the crank. Now, I didn't take this apart, so I might get some of the terminology a little wrong here. And then we've got a timing pickup gear there. Then we got the front support cover right there that kind of holds the injection pump and whatever else on it like that. We've got the oil filter housing and the oil filter or the oil cooler there. We've got the water pump, and then we've got, I believe that would be called the water manifold, and then we've got the various lines and whatever that go to the cooling system and kind of mixes in with the treatment system for the fuel, the EGR and whatnot like that. You got a couple of return lines there for the turbo. Let's see, we got everything. That there is part of the treatment system as well. I think one of these, either that there or that is the EGR valve itself. I think that's the EGR valve. Then you got the EGR cooler. And then you got the fuel dosing system pump there. I believe that's what that is. And that has something to do with the treatment system for the emissions, I believe. Don't quote me on any of this stuff, so I get some of the terminology wrong. So we got a serpentine belt tensioner here. That was shot. You can see that's all wallered. We got an oil pump here. The oil pump is good. That right there is the crank case filter. It kind of works like a PCV valve. The crankcase blow-by, they want to run through a filter, and that's what that unit there is. And we've got the engine wire harness here. That's all good. All the plugs are good on that wire harness. And we've got the turbo. The turbo is good. We talked about the head a little bit, and then we've got the fuel system components here. Got an injection pump there. We've got a what would that be? The primary. We got a fuel filter housing there, and then a water separator housing right there. And that water separator housing right there has got a fuel pump in it. If I remember right, that's about $1,000 right there. So this stuff is all good and can be used on something. So I haven't yet decided what I want to do with this stuff. If I'm just going to put it all in a crate, or if I'm going to put various things on eBay or not. We might talk to Syracuse Crank to see if that head is worth anything. I don't want to keep this stuff around too long. You know, something like that we probably won't use right away, but that'll work on a couple of tractors. The block is junk. Now we're going to talk about the pistons and the rods and the bearings and whatever. So this is piston number 5. That's what that guy looks like right there. That's all that's left to it. I called 5 Star to see if they had the broken pieces. Now, some of it was down in the oil pan, but the rod itself, that must be somewhere. I don't know. Yeah, I don't even see the... Yeah, they must have the whole rod. I don't know if it broke in half or not, but these are the other pistons here, and they are in decent shape. Obviously, you'd just replace them, but you know, they're all in decent shape. However, the bearings, we spun a few bearings. Here's a real bad one right here. You can see a groove in it right there, and I'll pull. Now that one's scored. They're all at least scored. That one's got quite a few marks in it. You know, they've all got anywhere from a minor amount to an extreme amount. Here's another one here that is just, you know, spun bad. That is just bad. So that's got quite a mark in it there. You know, better than half of them are all scored up pretty good. So that's gonna do that, I guess. I think we've touched base on everything here. Here's another bearing here. I guess the ones that have the groove in them, that's an oil journal. So that is an oil journal. There should be 6 of those. 1, 2. Yeah, at any rate, I don't know a lot about this kind of stuff because I haven't really had an engine, haven't been deep down into an engine before. So that's gonna do it, I guess, folks. It's all tore apart. What we're gonna do is bring a wooden crate over here, and we'll just start loading in components that we want to save. And the rest of the stuff we'll just throw in the scrap truck, the block, the crank, and whatever. Now, I have had a couple people ask if I would put the Pistons on eBay for you guys to bid on. Now, I haven't made up my mind if I'm going to do that yet or not. If anybody thinks that's a good idea, drop me a comment down below, and we'll kind of weigh our options that way and see if there is any interest in putting them on eBay. I would, of course, take the connecting rod out of the Pistons, unless you want me to leave the connecting rod with it. You know, we could put all 6 on there, even the one that was the culprit there, but, you know, it must have seized up on the crank, and then it broke the piston. The rod must have come through the block after it broke off the piston. That's what we're thinking happened. So if we had put a set of rods and mains in it 4,000 or 5,000 hours ago, even a couple thousand hours ago, this engine would still be alive. So, we've rambled on long enough. So, I guess that's going to do it, folks. We're going to box everything up here after I close this video out, and we are going to call it a day here. So, I want to thank you for watching. Leave me a thumbs up if you like this video. Drop me a comment down below, and we will catch you at the next video, folks.